Hello everyone. I received a lot of comments on my recording regarding New Jericho. Some of it positive, some of it negative. I want to clear the air before I do this recording. On this channel, I try to keep it as real as possible, I guess you can say. I only speak of what I know or what I'm thinking at the time that a recording is made. If I don't know something, then obviously I'm not going to comment on it. If a mistake is made in the process of doing that, then I'm quick to accept it and correct it. If you think that I made a mistake, don't approach it like, oh, you should do this and this differently or this and this better. Approach it like, hey, I think you made a mistake, here's why. That's all you gotta do. I will look at it and I will respond, more than likely. That's part of my core philosophies. Last thing I want to point out is that I'm disabled and have medical issues. I do recordings on the spot when I am well enough to do so. By on the spot, I mean no transcripts, no editing whatsoever. I turn on the mic and I just talk. That's all I do. With that out of the way now, I'm going to go ahead and talk about new Synedrion. Unfortunately, the save files got corrupted, or the Epic Cloud save completely screwed over my files here, because you can see the date's off. It says 2047. That means my Synedrion playthrough is no more. I was up to the moon mission or whatever it was. Gone now. But I can still talk about it. So with Synedrion, they do live up to their technology thing. Along the way with their research, you will get base upgrades, such as increased energy efficiency, or energy output, I mean, mist repeller, and things like that for your base. While that's cool and all, the problem is that it costs a lot to defend a base. In a way, New Jericho is kind of the economy faction, because they get reduced costs on recruitment of other soldiers. I'll even show you that real quickly. Let me just find a random example. Here's one. So look at this. This right here will only cost me 300 food. And why not another example? Oh, look at this. Only 308 materials and 150 food. That's the cost with New Jericho. Okay? They reduced the cost so much that you could recruit soldiers to defend other Phoenix bases quite easily. Well, at least in numbers. To further that, they do have increased experience gain from training facilities. That means you can just take any random recruit, put them in the base for defense, and leave it at that. They'll be very effective. So, TLDR, New Jericho seems to be more of an economy faction than Synedrion. Synedrion seems to be based on defending as few bases as possible, maybe 1 to 3. But that's just the base stuff. Now, as far as the other stuff is concerned, in terms of armor and equipment, we'll go ahead and start with the armor. I did notice that the Synedrion assault armor has accuracy bonuses on it, which is really cool. That's not something you'll see here on New Jericho's assault body armor, because it's just straight armor, and lots of it. Some other things too that kind of make it interesting, and I don't know if it's going to be worth it, is Synedrion gets the opposite of New Jericho for a undersuit module. New Jericho's is fire resistant, but Synedrion's is poison resistant. There seems to be more poison resistant enemies than fire, so that actually might be more worth it. As far as helmet modules, Synedrion gets 2 of them, One is motion detection. It allows you to see enemies behind cover. The other is night vision. So yeah, I don't know how effective any of that is, or if it's even worth it. I'll have to run more experiments with it. Yeah, that's the armor. Let's go and cover weapons and stuff. So the Synedrion faction gets a neural rifle for snipers that has piercing and a 15 paralysis factor. The Neurizer, which is what everybody gets, does have a piercing value as well, but look at the paralysis. It's 8 for every 1 action. In the 3 action it takes you to fire the neural rifle, you're only getting 15. So technically you can get more with this. However, it's a scenario situation. If it's not safe to go up to melee range with a Neurizer, then the Synedrion neural rifle is a better bet. That's just the non-lethal weapon, though. Their lethal weapons, though, have ridiculous range. This is just the laser rifle. You'll see it has an effective range of 82, while the pistol has 27. In comparison, you'll notice that the Raven only has 51 for a sniper rifle. And let me just find some random pistols here. Iron Fury's 14 range, and Nurgle's Wrath is 11. So you can see that everything has extreme range on their weaponry. So you should try to use that to your advantage. I did a infiltrator plus sniper combination for my Synedrion run through just to see if there was any difference between that and the new Jericho strategy I was running. As a recap, with Jericho I was running assault with snipers so I could be very mobile. I learned that Synedrion is a little bit more effective for that strategy because they will do more damage, and their ability to completely disappear from enemies makes it a far more effective strategy. Now, just because you disappear from enemies' firing capabilities does not mean that you're immune to worms or things like that. I don't know if this is a bug or if it was intentional, but I did notice that enemies follow you. Not just the worms, but other enemies. If you completely disappear, they'll still follow you, no matter what. But, yeah, you have to be very careful with that. With with not only the noise you make from firing, but also in the fact that apparently enemies just follow you. But once you get past those problems, you will realize that if you play your cards right, Synedrion can completely destroy a map without ever taking a single point of damage. That's one of the beautiful things about it. While the rifle has extreme range and does allow you to pick off enemies a little bit more tactically, you could steal the research for the Raven SR-13 and do a lot more damage. Because the Raven SR-13 ignores armor, that means that this is going to do essentially 260 damage versus the 200 damage that this is capable of on a sneak attack. Because you have to factor in armor and all that other stuff. So, if you can steal the research and you are very good at tactics, you could probably do something a lot more devastating with the infiltrator-sniper combo. Unfortunately, this game is just that way. It seems that assault rifles don't do as much as heavy weapons or the sniper rifles. One thing I would like to finish pointing out on is if you're going to be doing this sniper rifle combo that I was trying to do, it does require you to reposition frequently. As such, you will need to capture a goo launching alien. This game is not balanced at all. Sirens can control as much as 3 party members at one time, and goo launching aliens can launch every other turn. So you will need to capture the goo alien to make the armor module that will allow you to keep moving. So that's what you have to do with either strategy. Now, I want to finish out this recording by revisiting the heavy weapons discussion from the last recording. Someone was pointing out that they run Berserker with heavy just so they can shred armor and not have to worry about all this stuff. That seems to be a fine strategy. So let's go ahead and just recap on what I was discussing. I was talking about using the jetpacks on the heavy armor to get more distance than the double dash. I failed to say that it's a situational thing. That's my fault. Sometimes dash can be more effective than the jump, but it all depends on the map and where enemies are and things like that. So, while yes, the jump does require action points, it does give you 20 tiles for 2 willpower. So it's just a difference in math. You either spend 2 willpower and action points, or you just spend straight up willpower. It's really up to you. But yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about the heavy weapon stuff now that we've recapped on that and in terms of movement. So if you did armor shredding with a Deceptor MG like they were pointing out, that would be a pretty effective way of doing it, considering that this is a 12 burst weapon, whereas some of the other stuff isn't as high as that. Dante is just a straight flame. This is where it gets deceptive. The Dante won't tell you anything like burst or anything, but it's a straight flame of, I think, in game time 3 seconds. So technically it can actually do up to 120 damage raw, but that's only if the armor's down. In addition to the Dante's straight up fire damage, it leaves a path of fire in its wake, meaning the ground will be burning for enemies to essentially walk over and get killed by. So here's an interesting thing to think about when you're comparing burst damage with that shredding thing. The Dante is more of a defensive heavy weapon in that scenario because of the fire being left on the ground. It will get rid of mine fraggers and worms for you. Whereas this is entirely dependent on a single target. In addition, the action point difference is different. You'll notice this takes 3 action points, and this takes 2. So the Dante can actually spew a lot more in turn than the other one can. Another thing too that I'm kind of curious about, and I don't know if this will work, but I'm just throwing the idea out there, is if you could run the shredding with the ARs. That would actually make them somewhat effective. I don't have the Synedrion assault rifle up here, but I know it has a very high capacity and a decent amount of burst. This is the new Jericho one. It runs at 5. There's another one, the Bulldog, which is only 4, yeah. So this is 5 up here, so it's not quite 12, but it takes less action points and will be a little bit more accurate. So I'm wondering if running Berserker with Assault will work for that scenario, but again, I don't know. It would be interesting to find out. Maybe that's something that I can work on. We'll see. Even though that the Archangel is really not that great, I do want to also bring it up as a possibility for running that. Because look at the effective range, it's 102. So you could turn Berserker and Heavy into a sniper, is what it boils down to. Sure, you're going to miss a couple of shots, just because heavy armor reduces your accuracy, but it could work. That's part of the reason why I was thinking of the assault rifle stuff, because the accuracy bonus, or rather the accuracy neutral status, from just running as an assault would certainly help with that. Sure, you wouldn't get rage burst, but if you're getting through the armor, I don't think it will matter all that much. So maybe somebody who's a little bit better at math and strategy than I can figure that all out. But for now, that's all I have. Thanks for listening to this recording.